Welcome back to Take My Money. Well, I mean, I'll get it as a bonus from Josh on top of my monthly payments, but you guys can pay. Arsenal are back at the Emirates. This video was recorded before the Villarreal game for scheduling reasons. So, what a football match it was. Balls were kicked, and I enjoyed the kicking. I think that covers it. Overall, Arsenal's Asian tour was, I think, pretty successful. 2 wins, okay, 1 loss, but it's pre-season, he says, through Spurs-induced tears. Arsenal did a lot of community engagement with young people over in Hong Kong and Singapore, which was great to see, and it always amazes me to see such passionate crowds so far from home. But on the field, despite some good performances and highlights, there were some concerns. Some people worried by some familiar tactical issues creeping in over the 390s, especially against Spurs. Namely, lots of possession and all the good signs in the data, but a lack of access to the middle, a lack of dynamism, a dysfunctional left-hand side, low chance volume, and slow horseshoe football in the final third. Personally, I know we have to solve it, but it's not massively concerning me yet for this season. It's still pre-season, they're all on individual fitness plans, we're still giving opportunities to youngsters, and crucially, we haven't actually seen much of our significant forward signings, many of whom I believe are signed to address these dynamics, as we'll get into. But at the same time, I also think it would be naive to write this off as, classic Arsenal fans panicking about pre-season. This is probably the biggest issue in our game model to fix, and we're not seeing major progress. So no matter the context, I do get it. Maybe Gyökeres, Madueke, Zubimendi, and Eze, and Rodrigo all started against Villarreal. Gyökeres has banged in 15 and we've gone prime Wenger ball. But something tells me these dynamics, which have plagued Arsenal over the last 18 months, might take a little more than 1 game to solve. Forget high turnovers, forget set-piece FC going down the drain. This is the specific tactical puzzle Mikel must solve in 25-26. Oh, and just quickly, you can follow both The Different Knock at thedifferentknock and me at Alex Moneypenny on TikTok, Instagram, X, and YouTube. And please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel as we're on the road to 100k. Sickening self-promo over. I'm referring to the game state where the ball's in the final third and Arsenal are in settled possession, somewhere we find ourselves a lot. We all know the on-paper idea of our front 5 as it stands. Let's say a Martinelli, Rice, Havertz, Odegaard, Saka front 5 for argument's sake. Recently, we've tended to favour shifting the ball from side to side to look for a breakthrough, as opposed to quickly shifting the ball vertically, for example, or lots of shots from distance, although that might be changing, as we'll come to. In this phase, we've seen combinations on the right between Saka and Odegaard, often supported by White or Timber. We've seen reverse balls for Saka in that channel between the centre-back and the full-back. We've asked Saka to beat his man and hit a cutback, or try to get him inside and create space for a shot from the edge, among other things. Odegaard plays those balls into the back post, combines, tries those intricate passes through the lines, but also he's been dropping out, recycling and dictating our final third tempo. Havertz is often inside, trying to create space with his movement. Many times he's on the last line, or at the back post, or getting on the edge of the cutbacks, trying to move defenders while rolling in and out horizontally. Meanwhile, Rice and Martinelli have been interchanging off the last line, working angles, combining with the left fullback, who often remains a little deeper than the right fullback, and doing a lot of crashing the box and engaging in 1v1s out wide when the ball is on their side. If there's different personnel, maybe there's slight shifts in that phase of play, but that's the general gist, even if we could go a little bit deeper into the detail. The problem is, it doesn't work. No, that's harsh. It does work. And on paper, I do get the idea. It just doesn't work as well as probably most Arsenal fans would want it to. It's very hard to find public data for those specific players in that specific scenario, but every Arsenal fan can tell you about that game state. We all know what we're referring to. And when you look at the big picture in the data, for what Arsenal are trying to do, it's not pretty. Arsenal scored only 4 more non-penalty goals than Newcastle in the Premier League last year, and only 6 more than Calamity Tottenham in 17th, creating just the 5th most non-penalty XG overall, with 59.99 according to Opta Analyst, behind Newcastle, Chelsea and City, who all came below us points-wise. It's even more alarming when you consider Arsenal, again, aiming for a title, had the 7th best quality of shot in the league, measured by XG per shot, again, non-penalty. A glance at our field tilt numbers will tell you how long we spend in this state, squeezed up the pitch in the final third, trying to break teams down. Again, of course, we spend time in other states and we're better and worse in others. But from this one, we're not creating good enough chances as a collective. I've seen people reinterpret certain data points and say, no, it's not a creativity problem. It's a finishing problem. And I accept the irony here because I'm saying this. I think you're overthinking it. Despite the 5th most non-penalty XG, we still scored the 3rd most goals and had the 3rd best XG over performance in the entire league last year, only behind Nottingham Forest and Wolves. And our overall conversion rate was actually the best out of any team in the entire top 8. You can maybe say, oh, that's set pieces or something. But in all competitions last year, every front 5 player we have, bar Martinelli and Sterling, so that's Havertz, Trossard, Saka, Marino, Odegaard, Jesus, Ethan and Rice, all overperformed their non-penalty XG. Ethan Nwaneri, for example, scored 9 goals in all competitions last season from 1.9 non-penalty XG. And in the Champions League, despite nearly reaching the final, Arsenal had only 1 entry in the top 30 players ranked by non-penalty XG created in the Champions League overall, Gabriel Martinelli, who was 13th. This is not a team with a load of misfiring individuals. This is a systemic issue. And I think there's a multitude of possible reasons for this, and I'm going to give you 6. Good word, that. Multitude. Number 1, having 2 right-footers on the left and 2 left-footers on the right, which also holds up with our first options off the bench, like Nwaneri and Trossard, creates scenarios where you don't have enough strong-footed threat out wide, unless, basically, Ben White is fit. Everyone tends to have to collapse inside to do their best work, including most of our fullbacks, clogging the space centrally. Number 2, a mismatch between ball to feet and carry and run profiles, with broadly 2 big space run carry players on the left and 2 broadly small space ball to feet players on the right. Ideally, I think you'd pair a carry run type with a small space combination type to create the widest range of dynamic threats possible either side, as too much of one threat, for example combination, is easier to defend, I think, although I accept that could be debated. Number 3, having your final third tempo setter as Odegaard means the ball probably circulates better and may mean we stay in the final third longer with some better pass selection and more recycling, but he needs to be paired with greater risk takers in the other 5, those who can generate moments. And at the moment, for that balance, he isn't. Number 4, Mikel favours progression through the sides, as we discussed many times last season, which is fine and understandable when you consider the pros of that approach in isolation. But when you combine that with these other issues, the balance tends to tip into conservatism a fraction too much for me. Number 5, we have a lack of profiles in the squad who can deal with contact back to goal or receive inside on the back foot, turn and get their next action off quickly, so the central areas can become locked off to us. Ethan is probably the closest we have to this, and he's only been allowed to buy a lottery ticket for about 4 months. And lastly, number 6, individual quality. We can talk tactics, we can squint, we can say, get my fullback, we can say it's confidence. But ultimately, I don't think, for example, Gabriel Martinelli is good enough to consistently start for a team trying to win the Premier League and the Champions League every year. Sorry. It's alarming how quickly things have shifted on him, considering I got killed for this opinion a few months back. But you can't put every single player in your team in the perfect scenario for them at all times. It's cuckoo land. You're in cuckoo land. You need players who can thrive anywhere, and Martinelli just can't. And you could argue there's others in that front 5 who fit that mold too. I'm sure there's other reasons out there. There's 6. Look, before we talk solutions, we all sort of know this, right? And that's frustrating because if we all sort of know this, whether you'd articulate it the way I do or believe I've really outlined why it's a problem, the outcome is the same. The data looks the same. We all feel this problem, right? Why on earth aren't the professional analysts and coaches sorting this out? Because it feels like it's been a problem for a long time at Arsenal. And it's why, although I think there is context, I don't begrudge anyone moaning about this. It annoys me. However, if I were to take a more positive look on it, we could maybe say that Mikel's felt the out of possession benefits where we do thrive of a slightly lower risk approach, combined with the injuries last season and a lack of support from the board up until this summer at times, has stopped him moving forward quicker than he might have done. You all know my theory about 22-23 and how he's overcorrected. He's a young manager. He makes mistakes. And he's still winning a lot of football matches and points. He is allowed to learn. We all are. Now though, let's talk solutions. This season, we have some new, expensively acquired, Mikel-approved solutions. So if we can't make any progress, the sympathy I just outlined will begin to wane. Starting off with number 1, Noni Madueke. There's a compilation going around of Noni Madueke playing left wing for Chelsea against Everton last season, and I'm really excited about some of the stuff we see here, which I think could definitely translate to our left-hand side and solve some of our specific issues. First, it does strike me that Madueke is a truly exceptional athlete compared to our current left-sided options. George picked this up in our Scouted episode we did for him on the Cannon podcast, but I'm always impressed by how big his stride is for someone of his height. He runs really low, eating up ground, and that athletic potential is massive here. There's some really encouraging off-the-ball work in this game, for one. Madueke is getting in front of his marker, using that ridiculous stride, look at that, to hook the ball away from the marker, harrying his opponent on a number of occasions in the final third, and showing really good out-of-possession intensity. People talk about the benefits of Martinelli out of possession, which, if the rumour's true, Mikel's blocking him leaving, I think is probably why. His repeat sprint ability is amazing. I fully hear it. But with Madueke, I wonder if there's a potential to win the ball more higher up the pitch, with more harrying and athletic capacity. Small, quick caveat, I've not yet seen this intensity translate over 90 minutes. Something I love about Madueke is I think he loves the bit where he wins the ball back and drives into the box. He clearly thrives. But can you love the part of the game where you don't touch the ball for 25 minutes, lock in, and beat Liverpool away? There, not saying he can't do it, I just have questions. However, in possession, he's really adept at creating from the touchline, something I've spoken about in the past as an immediate solve to our left-hand side issues. Let me show you what I mean. Here, he actually mishits it, but he plays that first-time ball inside after a reception from the touchline that we so rarely do. He's committed the defender, so instead of slowing the ball, he looks to play first time inside and then drive in after his pass. Here, he's playing a 1-2 with Cucurella, and again, immediately drives into the space left behind by the committed fullback. Again, you see how quickly he can get in off the touchline. It's really impressive, driving in and getting a decent shot off his weak foot. Here, he receives touchline and gets his defender running backwards straight away. 3 touches, moment of separation, whip ball into the box. Is it the best ball? No, but at least I'm not watching the ball get stuck in that corner. It's coming out of that area quickly, something we don't always do. This is really nice. Receives touchline, and again, first time, knocks it inside and drives into that space. Asks his teammate to leave it because he wants the responsibility. It's a poor ball out to Enzo, and as I say, some of his execution is off in the final third, but look at the distance he's travelled. It's super impressive. In all of these situations, it's not slow down, take 4 touches, pass it back. It's a first time instinctive action, and it's positive. Bang, dynamic. For all of Martinelli's strengths inside, where I think he actually can be more decisive than Madueke, that's not him. I'm showing you nice moments from a game against a lower quality opposition. There's plenty to work on for Madueke, but he gets stuff wrong. He tries stuff. And to have that decisive, physical, athletic option off the left is really nice. In our current setup, the left winger especially often ends up in these wide situations, lane 5, holding the lino's hand. So to have someone, in theory, who creates more consistently off the touchline is a good sign. And another key here, he's left-footed. And we don't have a left-footed pure winger, I would say, outside of Saka. And I would argue Saka's not even a pure winger. We've spoken many times about fixing the left-hand side on this channel with a left fullback. But do we need that if we have a winger who can consistently go on the outside? Madueke does it a number of times in this game, burning his man on the outside a few times. But watch any comp of him doing 1v1s, and you'll see he's really good at this thing in isolation, again, specifically on the left, because he's stronger, where he'll kind of drag you inside to create himself room to go into, and then burn you to get a cross in or whatever. If he improves his final ball, I can see some really nice moments coming. To contextualize that, in terms of a direct comparison of take-ons and dribbles in the data, according to FBref, Martinelli completed 1.48 successful take-ons per 90, and Madueke completed 1.99 per 90 over the last 365 days. And according to SofaScore in the Premier League, Martinelli has a 40% dribble success rate versus Madueke's 71% success rate. Played out over a season, big difference. And encouragingly, I can actually see him going up a level in a better team. In a more predictable environment than Chelsea's 50-man squad turnover ball, I can see upside. And no, I'm not doing the Caicedo and Rice debate. If you take a look at the pass into him at times, it's sometimes setting him up for failure to go and take his man on. This pass from Cucurella, if he fires that more vertically into his back foot, he could immediately turn and drive and get the defender spun. But as it is, he has to drop to receive it on his front foot, which makes the angles to progress harder. It's also hit at a really slow pace, so there's no momentum to work off it. This pass from Lavia this time, it's bobbling and again to his right foot, so he has to drop to receive. If he's able to receive front foot, he could take it in his stride and create some more dynamism. With some better service from the likes of Gabriel and Miles on the left, I think we could see some really nice moments. I don't know if he immediately starts left wing, but what he does have, similar to Seshko in a weird way, is things we really don't. Touchline creation, athleticism, risk, all on a side that's crying out for it. So, that's Madueke. And the second solution we'll discuss in detail today, to stop this being nearly half an hour and Will crying in the corner, is a solution that may be at Mikel's disposal soon, and that is Eberechi Eze. Of course, this depends on it, actually happening, but let me dream. And a lot of this could apply to Rodrigo if we could do that. Eze is a 360-degree footballer who thrives when he's given responsibility in these zones, especially on the left, where he can execute beautifully. Waneri favours the right, Eze the left, but both give Mikel new solutions for games where we need to access those inside spaces. These are areas we struggle to penetrate in isolation. At the moment, Rice gives us a runner, a counter-presser, someone who can maybe carry into those spaces. But Eze gives us someone who can create in isolation from that zone himself. A recent preseason game for Crystal Palace against Augsburg showed this perfectly. Eze receives a difficult bouncing ball in this space. Immediately it's on his back foot, out of his feet, turn, and a beautifully weighted pass into Mateta. In more transitional games, what does an Eze here do for a Gyökeres or even a Martinelli out wide? Here he pulls slightly wider, drives with it, and then cuts inside before delivering a really, really incisive pass to Mateta that just takes a deflection on the way through. But it was going to him otherwise. Those threaded passes from this zone right now, unless we move Ødegaard, I don't see massively. Here, he becomes an outball, and with one reception on his back leg, crucially, he's away. No time to turn, just receive, bang, ball out wide. Gets Palace up the pitch in literally 2 actions. That verticality we have, I think, in Zubimendi when facing play, but less so with our current crop ahead of the ball. This one, inside on the left again, sorts his feet out, inch perfect cross to Mateta inside a few actions, who gets in front of his man and should probably do better. Remember, these are all from one game. This isn't a comp of Eze's best actions in the left half space. But if you do go and watch those compilations, you'll see that area of the pitch, he makes his own. I'm not having a pop at Rice here. He's a world-class footballer. It's just a different option. Eze receives in there in a different way. Not even necessarily under contact a lot of the time. He just finds a pocket and can take it, turn, and do something with it. Which also, based on hearing him speak, and at 27 years old, I can't see changing. Eze, going back to that list of 6 issues causing our game model problems, provides that balance of risk. It's one of the intangibles about him that I love. He'll try things. Your other players can be a bit more recycle first, a bit safer. Mikel can progress the ball wider for retention, if you also have an Eze, because he can take risks and execute it cleanly. This is direct offensive contributions from shots and key passes per 100 touches in the Premier League last season, looking at attacking midfielders and wingers from Ernesto_analyst on X. Look at the names up there. Madueke and Eze alongside our efficiency king in Saka. We might have 3 out of 5 of that top 5 soon. We are adding guys who can do more with less. And that is a solution. There's many other possible solutions that we don't have time to discuss today, but I'll touch on quickly and hopefully go into more detail at some point. First, Gyökeres' movement and chaos could really shift things for us as well. Even in a small cameo for us in the Spurs game, as you all know, I'm concerned about the cleanliness of his actions. But one way to deal with all this is to create chaos with that kind of barrel-like unpredictable quality that he has. Here, you can see the defenders backing off because they don't know what he's about to do, and it creates this moment on the edge of the box for Zubimendi. Second, if Eze is going to be on the left-hand side, does Declan Rice pop over to the right? Watch this compilation of Rice. I think on the right-hand side, he is a far superior passer than when he's on the left. Something about his body feels more comfortable, more open. His execution seems better when passing across his body rather than opening out. And that could open up new avenues for us to explore. Third, Zubimendi becoming more influential is a factor, and we'll do a video about him at some point. But it absolutely could change the tempo and point of our attacks. And I've been really interested seeing how high he's been on the pitch. He's taken like a duck to water. What a player we have, guys. Next, with Madueke now also a left-footed option off the right, which Mikel evidently likes, does this finally give us the option to pull Saka inside at times? Madueke has the progressive passes received numbers to rival Saka. So does Mikel finally pull Saka into more dangerous zones and stop him hugging the touchline so much. Finally, Ødegaard. We've discussed many times how he has a bit of an identity question to answer this season. Where he fits in this team will be fascinating. And I do wonder if off the left he could spark some really interesting debate, because I see some really good movement ahead of him that he could be the master of picking out. It's just if Mikel wants to move him. But possibly the most interesting part of all of this is how this all fits together. Obviously, we can pick stuff out in isolation and say, well, here's a problem and here's a solution. But ultimately, this is played on grass. A team is defined by how well everyone fits together, the chemistry, the intangibles. And really, you can't predict that. On paper, that front five we referenced earlier should work. But we all know it just kind of doesn't hit the potential it could. Mikel now has some really interesting solutions and combinations in his front five, especially if this Eze deal gets done. And I can't wait to see what we do differently. The one thing I am sure of is we'll see some change. You all know how much of a Mikel fan I am. And I'm often asked, what is my line? And here it is. If Mikel can't fix these dynamics enough, and I'll come back to that word enough in a second, I would be concerned and I would be thinking about moving him on. If it costs us again, it's happened too many times. I'm bored of talking about it really, and I'm sure you guys are bored of hearing about it. If you have a fit squad, plus Gyökeres, plus Madueke, plus Eze, plus whoever, and we still look as stale as we have done at times, it's a concern. But I highly doubt Mikel doesn't have deep thoughts on how these dynamics are going to change, way deeper than I could ever go. And we know for a fact that Mikel is changing things tactically. In a recent article from The Athletic, it was revealed that Mikel is making a team a little bit more vertical to suit Gyökeres, something we picked up a little bit in the preseason chatter so far. Heinz's impact, the new players, a fit squad, as I say, we're changing. And to close, I want to make a point that I think some people might not take into account next year. So I want to task you, my beautiful knockers, to make this point. In the pub, at work, wherever. Here's the thing. If Arsenal are a team who like to squeeze the pitch, who like to control the ball, who want to be kings of everything, then if they are to lose a game, it's likely to be the way we've seen us lose games and drop points in recent times. And that is going to be hard to stomach because it's happened a lot. And I wouldn't be surprised if till Mikel leaves the club, we'll see those games. We'll have all the field tilt, we'll have all the box touches, we'll have all the final third entries and nothing to show for it. It will press on a bruise and people will question Mikel, maybe understandably. But for me, it kind of misses the point. The question must be, absolutely must be, in this style, how many can we lose that way? If we play this way, this is the risk we take. Having games where we're pressed up against them and we can't do anything. In the same way that if you're in a counter-attacking team, the risk is you'll lose it on the counter. Every style has its weakness. The question is how well you deal with the weaknesses that your style has. And that has to be the question. Last year, it was too many games. So hopefully, with some new tools at his disposal, Mikel can solve this potentially career-defining tactical puzzle and turn those Aston Villas, Newcastles, Fulhams and Brightons into wins to get us that sweet silverware. Hold tight, Gooners. Change is coming. Thanks so much for watching. If you like The Different Knock, you can support us on Patreon and get ad-free early access to each video for just £3 a month. Or for one-time support, you can buy us a coffee. Links are in the description.